Hey, what's up? So glad to see you guys. Got another video here that's definitely on time. Oh boy. As you can see, I got a new setup, got a new computer, got a old Xbox, and an older laptop. Seems I have a little problem here. I'll fix that later. So here's another game published by EA. As you can see, they're a goldmine for terrible products, but we're getting way too ahead of ourselves here. Let's get some background information first. NBA Live is a basketball video game series published by the Electronic Arts boys. Their first release was in 1994 with NBA Live 95, and it was very popular at one point, until they weren't. NBA Live 19 was released on September 7th, 2018, days before 2K19 dropped. Now, elephant in the room, we have two NBA video game franchises, and that means we're gonna pit them against each other, right? No, we're not gonna do that. And it's not because I don't have 2K19 in my possession. That's definitely not the reason. It's because NBA Live should only be in competition with themselves. That's why. Not because I don't have 2K19. Honestly though, the NBA Live series has so many cancelled projects that the Mega Man series got jealous. They're in no condition to compete with 2K. So if we're gonna compare games, then it has to be NBA Live 18 and NBA Live 19. I've probably said NBA at least 25 times already. Oh well, let's see what NBA Live 19 has to offer. So, I got new lighting now. I'm able to have the green screen all set up, got the bars all hot. Well, the game starts with a tutorial at Prince's basketball court so you can get a taste of the icon system. It's like in 2K when you... God damn it. I'm going to try my best not to reference 2K as much as possible. When you're creating your basketball player, you get to select your playstyle. You got the shooters, the dunkers, the passers, the defenders. It's what you expect. After you select your playstyle, you get to pick your icon. Icons will prioritize a skill and give boost to stats. You'll also get some gear, and as it says right there, you'll eventually unlock every icon in that playstyle. Speaking of creating players, NBA Live 19 allows you to create a female character. And you know how biologically speaking, we're not going to see a WNBA player do a 360 between the legs dunk anytime soon? Well, in this game, you can do damn near anything as a woman. With the right archetype, you are capable of posterizing, like full on putting your meat curtains on a defender, and I wouldn't have it any other way. So here's Princess Diana. I don't know what I was going for with that name, but here we are. Thank God the hairstyle selection is shared by both genders, so Miss Diana over here can give off that vibe of somebody who still wears True Religion jeans. Anyways, our character is created and an icon is selected. Now, what can we do as a female player? Well, you can play all of these. Male characters have exclusive access to the league, which is basically an NBA career mode. And I don't want to get too ahead of myself because we'll talk about the league later, but they could have definitely had a WNBA career mode. Realistically, we can only take a look at the league in the streets because this is a 3-year-old sports game, which means that any online playlist is practically unplayable. And I'm not even playing, like I tried to play court battles and it was a little glitchy and then it froze my game. It was a whole thing. Whatever. I have much more to say about the two functional game modes. Let's start with the streets. The story of the streets starts with ESPN reporter
Cassidy Hubbath
as she's hyping up the Jordan Kawhi championship. The One, that's your creative character's nickname by the way, is participating in the event. After you win the championship, you get some recognition. And when you win a 3v3 against El Del Don, you're free to travel the world. Well, if your world only includes the USA, Canada, Brazil, and the Philippines, those are the places where you get to play basketball. And that's it for the story. No, seriously, all you do is win tournaments, recruit players, and earn new gear. Now, I know that sounds stale because it is. And there's also text messaging, but it's really not worth mentioning. The gameplay itself has its shortcomings, but I'm gonna save most of my talking points until we get to the league. I'll say this though, the gameplay in the streets is very simplistic. From one point of view, I guess it's understandable, considering how street ball games have a lack of intricate plays. Like you're not gonna see a team run a floppy in a pickup game. But it's impossible to not notice how bare bones the streets is, and it doesn't take a rocket surgeon to know how to make it more eye-catching. Watch this, you got a game mode where you're playing on the street, and you're playing basketball. Street, ball, street, ball, street ball. There you go, you got it, street ball. Now let me be as clear as possible. I'm not asking for the entirety of the NBA Street franchise to be stuffed into one game mode. A man can dream, but we gotta be pragmatic here. But you're telling me that they didn't think about implementing street ball animations to their original source code or whatever and say, there, we did it? They didn't even do that? How hard is it to go onto youtube.com and search Escalade and 1 highlights, look at the mocap guy and say, do that shit? Think about how interesting the streets would be if you were able to get more flashy moves as you progress through the game. You know, instead of being rewarded with animations that you can get without even playing this game mode. All I'm saying is that you can't retain player attention just by simply adding a challenge list. See, every game has a list of challenges that you have to complete. One objective will almost always tell you to win the game, while the others will tell you to get a certain amount of points, assists, or try not to blow your brains out due to boredom. Luckily, you don't have to complete all 3 challenges in one match, because if that was the case, I wouldn't even be talking about this game mode. It still took damn near 2 days to complete it, and guess what the reward is? I'm gonna give you a drum roll. Nothing. They give you nothing. I don't even think they give you an achievement. With all that being said, the Streets World Tour is awful. It suffers from the same problem that plenty of other games have, in that you're stuck in a cycle that quickly becomes boring. Remember UFC 4's career mode? It was just selecting an opponent, training, fighting, and repeat. Well, in this game, it's play a game, upgrade your stats in your team, and repeat. This could have been less terrible if NBA Live tried to spice things up a little bit. At least in UFC 4, I can't believe I'm about to compliment this game. At least in UFC 4, you were able to mix up your training camp, for example. Don't get me wrong, that game still deserves to have a full mag dumped into its abdomen, preferably a Walther PPQ, but at least there was some evidence of effort, albeit tiny. You can't really say the same thing about the Streets World Tour. And that's all I have to say about that game mode, so we're gonna move on. Like I've said before, there's no WNBA career mode, so we're gonna have to create a dude. And I have to say, I think I did a great job on the face. You know, if I shaved my sides, had a normal sized forehead, and a beard that could... I don't have a beard right now, but I think we'd actually look the same. Okay, maybe not. The beginning of the story, also known as the Rise, is practically the same as the female player side, so let's fast forward a bit. Once you finish a game against Joel Embiid, you enter the NBA Draft Combine to boost your draft stock. Since I was balling out of my damn mind, I got picked 3rd by the Chicago Bulls, and after adjusting the league settings, which is a great game mechanic by the way, nobody wants to play all 86 games in a season unless they have to. Anyways, here we are at the beginning of the NBA season, and there's my player, in a Dallas Mavericks jersey. Okay, what the hell happened? You guys saw that the Bulls drafted me, right? Like, I was in a uniform and everything, but now I'm in the blue and white somehow. And don't say that I got traded after they picked me. They didn't Kobe me, they didn't Rondo me, they didn't Kevin Love me. Kevin Love me. I even checked the transaction log and it wasn't much help. See, what's supposed to happen is when you get drafted, you're given an option to request a trade to any NBA team before the season starts. But the game glitched out. And now I'm able to do something that's never been done before. Become the first NBA rookie to get traded twice before my first game. I decided not to make history, probably because I didn't want to risk my game soft locking itself, because if any game could do it in this day and age, it would most likely be NBA Live 19. I know this could be seen as a minor glitch in the grand scheme of things, but this is the league's first impression. This is a bad sign. But at least we're here. So what can you do in the league? How about we go down the list?
Things you can and cannot do in the league.
Can you play as a rookie? Yes, that's an easy one. Can you play in the draft combine? Yes. Can you play NBA games? Yeah. Alright, we're on a good start so far. Can you practice with your teammates? No. Okay. Can you interact with any of your teammates outside of a game? No. Can you participate in workout drills? No. Can you sign endorsement deals? No. Can you talk with other players with the hopes of creating a super team? No. Can you participate in post-game interviews? No. Can you see what the roster looks like before signing with the team? No. Can you even discuss your contract in depth? No. So if we're going to be real here, the only thing you can do in the league is play NBA games and text messages. Can't forget about the text messages. Now you might be thinking, well, this is the league. Of course all you're going to be doing is playing in the league. And if you're thinking that, then holy shit, I'm a goddamn mind reader. And you also have a point there. The league is a part of an overall game mode that includes 5 mini game modes. You know how you go to college and you choose which major you want to spend 4+ years in, plus that? It's like that. But here's the major issue. None of these mini game modes are fleshed out, especially the league. Even with the option to speed up the game, I was still uninterested after about 5 minutes of playing. And it only gets much worse because after this segment, we're going to take a look at NBA Live 18 to see how much has changed. Oh, don't worry, it's what you expect. But first we have to talk about the gameplay in this game. Remember how I said the gameplay was nothing to write home about? Well, I was specifically referring to the lack of depth in terms of animations and playmaking. That's only one aspect of it. And I did that on purpose because... okay, let me just say it. NBA Live 19 has the worst AI I've ever seen in my life, and I didn't want to blow my load early by bringing it up during the Streets chapter. If you're familiar with the NBA Live franchise, then you probably already know about the lack of AI logic, and I'm gonna say the lack of polish. You remember the Isaiah Thomas video? Because I sure do.
What the fuck?
You know, I thought that after whatever NBA Live game that was from, I don't know, I'm not gonna find out, that EA would have stepped back and said, maybe we need to put more effort into our game mechanics, and they ended up doing none of that. Their failures exemplified when playing a game mode where you can only control one player. They couldn't even balance out teammate AI properly. Allow me to explain. When creating a career mode in a sports game, one of the most important aspects that developers have to work on is the teammate AI, because it can make or break the game mode. Now, there are two types of teammate AI. On one side, you got the ones who don't really need you. On the other side, you got the smooth brain morons who can't operate unless you're running everything. You have to find that middle point in order to have a game that's worth playing. Unfortunately, NBA Live 19 is all the way on the smooth brain side. Guys, homies, the broalition if you will, I have more than enough footage of prime cut fuckery, but I'm going to show you some of my favorite highlights. Scenario number 1, LeBron gets the ball at the 3-point line and he breaks Hardaway Jr.'s ankles. Instead of hitting a jump shot, a floater, or I don't know, drive to the butt-ass naked left side of the lane, he decides to drive to the complete opposite side and go for a contested layup. That's some 1000 IQ AI logic right there. Scenario number 2. This guy takes a contested shot while KP is hanging in the paint in front of his defender. After the shot, KP does a little bit of walking, turns his brain off, and allows a second chance bucket. You gotta love the part where he realizes that he's in a basketball game and tries to play some last second defense. Alright, last one. Scenario number 3. We have DeMarcus Cousins assuming to position, he gets the ball, and let's just make a shout out to Shaq's impeccable vision right here. That man is tapped in. Then Cousins turns around, and now his body is facing towards the rim. Shaq is behind him, effectively out of the play. He could lay it up at any time, but no. And then he passes the ball to LeBron because I wasn't paying attention. But that's not important. The man just posted up in a complete opposite direction like it was normal. You want to know what's the best part about this? It happened again. Let's also make a shout out to the step back ankle breaker animation because this game has a finite number of animations, so you'll end up seeing it over 100 times. The unintelligent artificial intelligence is only the tip of the iceberg. Well, it's more like a series of icebergs, but the second largest issue has to be the animations. If you've ever played Madden before, then you probably notice a pattern here, in that all their sports games are often animation based. This means that if the requirements are met in a sequence, an animation is triggered, and it must happen no matter what. Now this could lead to a couple of issues. I'm sure you've seen the Madden clips where the receiver catches the ball and runs even though the defender already made the tackle, but no, because the animation must go on. In many cases, even if you complete all the requirements, e.g. if you block a shot correctly, the attempt could still fail because there's a different animation going on. For example, here's Shaq getting ready to send Tariq's shot to Narnia, but what's that? He's already locked into an animation with Westbrook? Well, it has to happen, so let's warp Shaq out of the way, and there we go. Sensational. So let me get this straight. We have terrible AI logic paired with a simplistic and yet tremendously terrible physics system, and I'm supposed to think that this game is a hidden gem. You're smoking crack. Alright, so I talked about everything I needed to talk about in NBA Live 19, so now we get to move on to NBA Live 18 for a bit to see how much is changed. Funny story by the way, NBA Live 18 was on EA Play at one point, until it wasn't, which meant that I had to purchase an out-of-date sports game. Luckily, it was only $5 because if it was $1 more, I wouldn't even be talking about this game right now. Anyways, I bought the game right, and guess what I got? NBA 2K18. It's funny how I told myself that I wasn't going to bring up NBA 2K that much, and the universe responds with a middle finger. Needless to say that I tried everything in my power to get NBA Live 18 in my hands. That $5 was not going to waste, and after a 20-minute super awkward conversation with a GameStop employee, I got it. So let's get into it. So I created my character, his name is Bendover because I'm a comedic genius, and once I started playing, I immediately noticed the difference between the two games, in that this game runs at crackhead speed. From guards to big men, it felt like every player was zooming across the court. And the weirdest part was that I actually liked it because it matches the overall playstyle of the game. Especially when you're playing street ball and everybody's getting dunked on and crossed up. It can get a little hectic at times, but at least it's more eventful. Even the load times are quicker. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, in NBA Live 19, whenever you enter the shop, or do anything in the shop for that matter, everything just slows down. In 18 it's manageable, but I'll cut 19 a bit of slack since the developers have stopped updating it, but I would have put it past them to somehow mess the shop up. After playing 18 for a couple of hours, I came to the conclusion that it was a strong meh out of 10. The game has plenty of moments where you question how people can still get paid for putting out a product like this, but as a starting point, for a returning franchise, it's a great first step. All they had to do was tweak the gameplay, and they would have something worth bragging about. And they don't have to change the plot either. The story of a player trying to prove himself after sustaining an injury is fine enough, although it's a little ironic considering that you can't get injured in 18 or 19. Is that how you use the term ironic? Whatever. You know, I was gonna show you the Kevin Ware injury photo as a joke, but I can't do that to you guys. Nah, just playing. But as far as NBA Live 18 goes, oh my God! As far as NBA Live 18 goes, when it came out, it made me more hopeful for the next installment, and now, in current year, we've seen how hard they fumbled the bag. And that's all I care to talk about when it comes to NBA Live. Ultimate Team don't care, Play Now don't care, franchise don't care, although I'm curious to see what winning the NBA championship looks like.
Some bad passes being made, and the shots came from different places around the body, which aren't usual for the typical shot. That shot-making ability, that's something special to watch.
Well, I can't say that I'm surprised. I don't care anymore. Let's get to the conclusion. Let's say NBA Live was making a comeback. Again, the developers would have to ask themselves, what do we have to do in order to make a game that is somewhat competent? Well, two things: gameplay and career mode. Throw the Ignite engine in the trash and don't you dare touch the Frostbite engine. That shit needs to be on its way out. The career mode needs to be fleshed out more, and no, that doesn't mean just shove a cinematic story in the next game and call it a day, because what they have right now is actually a good starting point. The story of a college player wanting to play in the NBA is good enough. Hell, you could even have, like, I don't know, Paul Mooney as your dad or something. Huh? Okay, so apparently Paul Mooney is dead, but having that is enough. They should focus more on adding things like being able to interact with your teammates outside of a basketball game. Imagine if you could practice with the team, or convince other players to join your team in the offseason, or try to build morale by taking your homies to the strip club. These are all great ideas, by the way, all of them. They could also think about adding basketball drills, actual sponsor deals, contract negotiations with depth, you know, etc, etc. Basically adding shit that should be in a basketball game. As of now, there's no news of NBA Live coming back, but if it did, it will probably underdeliver and then go on hiatus again. But that's all I have to say, man. I'm out of here.